I went from a college dropout with absolutely no skills and just a passion for sports to generating well over 8 figures as a sports bettor. And let me tell you guys, it wasn't always that easy. It wasn't just an incredible leap from nothing to, something, right? It took a lot of lessons, painful errors, blowing bankrolls, chasing losses, emotional outbursts, and a lot of learning. I've been doing this over 12 years. I've absolutely seen it all. And it took a lot of those valuable lessons before I was ever able to successfully make it as a sports bettor. The reality is that if you guys try to do this on your own, it's extremely difficult. But if you have the right people, the right mentors, the right people in place to help you, to guide you through the process, it will make it very, very easy for you to be successful. In today's video, I'm gonna give you guys an MLB betting guide for beginners. Even if you had no idea about betting, you will learn something valuable here in this video. So, welcome to this beginner's guide to MLB betting. If you are new to betting on Major League Baseball and you want to understand the basics, you're in the right place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the world of MLB betting and make it simple and enjoyable for you guys. So step one, we're going to need to understand the basics. You cannot be a successful sports bettor unless you understand the basics, right? So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So number one, before you place any bets, you need to know these few fundamental concepts, otherwise it will be disastrous for you and your bankroll. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about is money line bets. What is a money line bet? You might have heard this term, you might already know it, but it's basically money line is referring to betting on which team will win the game. It's as simple as that. So let me give you guys an example. Let's say the Yankees are playing the Red Sox. If the Yankees are a minus 150 favorite, you need to bet $150 to win $100. If the Red Sox are plus 130 underdogs, you're going to need to bet $100, and that's going to win you $130. That's all it means on a money line. You're just looking for a team to win or lose the game. The second type of term you're going to learn about in MLB betting that's very popular is called run line bets. So it's very similar to a point spread in any other sport. However, in baseball, they typically set this line at 1.5 runs. Due to the nature of the game, I'm sure you can imagine. So for example, if you're betting on a team to win by more than 1.5 runs, which would be minus 1.5 runs, then the team needs to win at the end of the game by 2 or more runs. Now, if you're betting on plus 1.5, it's the exact opposite. You're betting on that team to either win the game or to not lose the game by 2 or more runs, and that's how you would cash your bet. The third type of very, very popular bet that you guys are going to learn about here in baseball is overs and unders. It's a very simple bet. It's known as a total. It's essentially wagering on the total number of runs that are going to be scored in a game. So for example, if the total is set at 8.5 runs, you can bet on whether the combined score of both teams will be over or under that number. That's basically how it works. Second, now we're going to talk about the key factors to consider. There are several elements that can influence the outcome of a baseball game, and we're going to look at some of those critical factors that you should be considering when betting on baseball. So the first and most important piece of all of this is the starting pitcher. The importance of the starting pitcher cannot be understated. The performance of the starting pitcher will essentially heavily impact the game's outcome. The starting pitchers are pitching, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 innings of the game, and a baseball game is only 9 innings to begin with. So it is extremely, extremely important to understand that concept. So my biggest tip when I'm looking at starting pitchers is the one thing I want to know is what kind of form are they in recently, right? Baseball pitchers, it's very hot and cold. If a pitcher's struggling to find a strike zone or just giving up a lot of runs, it's likely it's going to continue in that trend. Or if they're pitching really well, on the other hand, it's very likely that they'll continue to have their stuff, getting lots of strikeouts and, getting batters out with ease. So you got to look at the recent pitchers' performances. The second thing that I'm looking at is their earned run average, also known as ERA. It's a statistical formula that they use to see how many runs on average does a pitcher give up. The higher the number, the more runs they're giving up. The lower the number, the better the pitcher is. And the third biggest statistic to look at for starting pitchers is something known as WHIP, WHIP, which stands for walks plus hits per innings pitched. Get it? I'll explain what it means, okay? So that's a great measure to see how many times a starting pitcher, or any pitcher in general, is putting a runner on base in an inning. That could be via a walk, that could be via a base hit, that could be via anything. The higher the whip is, right, the worse the pitcher is. The lower the whip is, the less scoring chances the other team is going to have. The second thing that you need to look at after starting pitchers is going to be bullpen strength. The importance of the relief pitchers or the bullpen pitchers is very, very important, because if the starter pitches great for 6-7 innings, but the bullpen can't close the game out, there is a very, very high likelihood you could still lose your bet. Relief pitchers really can determine the game's results, especially in close matches. So the biggest thing that you need to look at to make sure you're looking at that properly is analyze the bullpen's ERA, the whole bullpen, the team as a whole. What is their ERA? And then there's something called their recent workload, or you can look at the bullpen schedule. If all the good bullpen pitchers have recently just pitched, the likelihood that they're going to pitch today and be able to do it well is very, very low. And that would be a piece of information I would consider when betting on a specific side or team. The third thing that you got to look at, and this is for any sport, right? It's offense, team offense. If you can't score runs in baseball, it doesn't matter how good your pitching is, you still can't win. So a team's batting strength really, really affects run production, and it's very important. You need to look into the team's batting averages. What is their batting form recently? Are they hot? Are they cold? How many runs are they putting up per game recently? On base percentages, slugging percentages, these are all factors that influence scoring and offense. And then the next thing that you need to look at, run number 4 now, is the home and away performance. Some teams are phenomenal at home, and then there are other teams that are really bad on the road, and these things can oftentimes impact the outcome of games. People don't realize it, but a lot of teams often perform very differently on the road than they do at home. And there's a lot of factors for this, right? Comfortability, waking up in the same bed that they went to sleep in, right? Sometimes younger players play way better at home than on the road. Certain routines, being around their wife and kids. So many different factors, no jet lag, no travel, no tiredness. All these things play a major, major factor. So always check teams and their home and away records and run differentials. That makes a big factor in games. Number 5 is weather conditions. Weather impacts baseball significantly. So weather can influence not only game dynamics, but the wind and temperature can determine how the ball is carrying, how certain pitches may, move and not move in certain conditions, right? So a big tip to keep in mind, right? If the wind is blowing out of a specific field, it can lead to a lot more home runs. Wind blowing in, essentially headwind, will actually suppress scoring, because a lot of balls that would be hit further or harder are just going to end up being a pop-up, and so it suppresses scoring. So these are all very, very important statistics and things to consider when betting on a baseball game. So now that you've reached this point of the video, you might feel a little bit more comfortable with the basics, and you might be saying, you know what, I'm ready for the advanced stuff. So let's do it. Let's explore some of the more advanced betting markets that are available inside of baseball in section 3. So the first type of bet is known as a first 5 innings bet. It is essentially betting on the outcome of the first 5 innings and focusing on the starting pitchers. So if you're really confident one starting pitcher's performance over the other, you might be in a better position to say, hey, let me bet on the first 5 innings of this game instead of the full game, because it might work out better in your favor. The second type of bet that you could take are player props. You can wager on individual player performances, such as how many bases a player will get, how many hits a player will get, even how many walks a player will get. Or you can even bet on the pitchers to say how many strikeouts, how many walks they might give up, how many runs, hits, all of that stuff, including pitcher outs. The third type of bet that you could take in baseball is known as futures bets. So it's basically betting on long-term outcomes. It's not where you bet a game and you get paid out in 3 hours. This might take 3 to 6 months before you ever see your money, but sometimes you can get great value. So it's basically betting on long-term outcomes such as division winners, MVP awards, or World Series champions. The fourth type of bet that you could take are parlays, I definitely do not recommend taking parlays, even though a lot of people love them and they've been very, very popularized. It's basically when you're combining multiple bets into one wager for a higher payout. The caveat obviously is that all 3 wagers are for how many legs you put in your parlay all have to hit in order for you to get paid. If one loses, all your money's gone. So it's a lot higher risk. I always tell people do that with caution because all the selections must win for the parlay to pay out. Number 4, I'm going to talk about some betting strategies and tips. These smart strategies, if you implement them, can really enhance your betting experience. Number 1, bankroll management. You should only be wagering a small percentage of your total bankroll on a single game to manage risk. For example, if you've got a $1,000 bankroll, you shouldn't bet anything more than $10 to $50 per game. The second thing that you guys should be doing is line shopping. So different books provide different odds. You should compare the odds across these different sports books, create accounts on multiple sports books so that you get the best value. For example, if a game is, minus 110 on one book, you have to risk $110 to win 100. But if the line is plus 100 on another book, you're only risking 100 to win back 100. And although $10 seems very small in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, if you're doing that 50, 60 times, it's going to accumulate to a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of money, $500, $600, stuff like that. The third most important thing is to avoid betting with bias. Don't make decisions based on your heart, your favorite team, your emotions, what you're watching, none of that stuff. Betting is only successful when it's done based on data and analysis, not team loyalties or player loyalties that you personally have. The fourth most important thing is you have to stay informed. You have to be in on the in, is what I like to say. Keep up with team news, injuries, lineup changes, and just know what's going on. You know what I mean? Are there reports that there's, turmoil in a locker room? That might be a great sign to say, hey, let me avoid this team right now, etc. So these are all very, very important factors to keep in mind. So if you've enjoyed everything I've taught you so far, in the 5th section, I'm going to share some more resources that will help to further your learning, understanding, and help you stay updated. So consider these resources to use in your toolbox. First things first, some MLB statistic websites that I love to follow. Baseball-reference.com right here. Yep, that website is phenomenal. Gives you tons of data and analytical statistics on a bunch of different teams. The second one I love is MLB.com. Gives you scores, gives you news, gives you lineup updates, gives you everything you need to know about baseball. The other thing that you guys can check out are obviously, communities and sports betting forums. I run a community myself where we've got, thousands of people that are actively engaged and looking at the markets and all of that stuff. So if you're interested in that or even getting plugged into my community or even my, live calls and videos and stuff that I do all the time with active audiences where you can ask questions, just check the description down below and you'll get some information there. And so those are the biggest things that I can give you guys resource-wise, but the most valuable resource of all is trial and error, right? I've been doing this for over 12 years. That's where all my knowledge and experience comes from. You have to try, you have to learn, and you most importantly have to fail before you will succeed. That's just the reality of it. The best thing I can suggest you is take notes, keep a journal and a diary, note down the bets that you won, why you think they won, note down the bets that lost also and why you think they lost, what you could have done better in your decision-making process. It will help in making you a better sports bettor long-term. Betting on MLB games can both be fun and profitable when approached with knowledge and discipline. Remember to bet responsibly and enjoy the game. Thank you guys for watching my MLB betting guide for beginners. Let's cash and keep beating the books. Appreciate y'all. See y'all next video. Listen, sports betting is not an easy game, and I understand it because I've been there and I've done that, right? If you want to take a shortcut and stop having to figure all the tough things out and create your own data models and probability models and dealing with statistics and all the stuff that comes with it, I have a very easy shortcut for you. Join my community. I've got thousands of members that simply copy and paste my plays. I spend the hard-earned money, the hard-earned time, and I do all the hard work to find the value on the board every single day. All you have to do is just copy and paste my plays. If you guys are interested in that or even want a free play, check the description down below.